Okay, here we are again. Our apples, the recipe actually says 5 minutes. I printed my recipe, so now I know what I'm doing. Now I have to confess, the doorbell went and there was a guy here to look at sanding my floors, and I was probably gone for 10 minutes, but I had them on a low heat. They are still hard, but they're just softer than they were. Okay, and then the next thing, this is probably the trickiest part. So you just want to kind of pay attention. In a small pan, that's not as big as it looks, you are putting in your 150 grams of sugar. Okay, I would recommend caster sugar rather than granulated. This is granulated because I forgot to buy caster because I'm not very organized. And it says just 2 tablespoons of water. Now, here's the trick when you're making caramel. Try not to stir it. So just, God, I think I'm going to have to hire a cameraman, aren't I? But anyway, okay. So I'm going to come back to you in a bit, but the trick is to just keep it moving. Kind of. Okay. When you're making this, the ideal thing is that the sugar dissolves before it starts to caramelize. Now, if you use caster sugar, it'll dissolve quicker. But I'm not very good at following the rules, so we're just going to wing it here, see how it goes. So you can see the little bubbles starting to come. I'm not going to turn the heat up too high, even though I'm always very impatient when I'm doing this. I just want to get it made. But try and resist putting a wooden spoon into it. Try and just keep it moving. Now it's starting to bubble. It's also looking kind of clearer. So it is dissolving. So it's now boiling a bit faster, and I'm letting it boil a bit faster because there's no granules left. So you can be kind of brave. And when the colour starts to change, it will change quite quickly. Okay, it's still bubbling away nicely. I'm actually going to preheat my oven. I'm going to put my oven on at this stage so that when I do go to put the pastry on and everything, it's going to be ready to go. So this might be a good time to do that. You need a bit of patience here because it is quite slow. You also want to have your butter ready to go because once this colour starts changing, you need to kind of have your wits about you. And what you're looking for is a kind of a fudgy, butterscotchy, darkish colour. It's actually starting to change colour now. The darker it is within reason, the more delicious it's going to be. You don't want to burn it or it will taste bitter. But equally, you don't want to be a wuss. So you can see it's starting to go now. It's starting to smell gorgeous too. Yum. See, it's getting that's kind of a honey colour now. Be brave, hang in there. Oh, thank you. Oh, my cameraman has just turned on the lights. Andrew, would you like to be cameraman?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, fair enough. Next time. Okay, it's starting to kind of smell toffee-ish now. It's starting to smell very nice. As soon as you put the butter in, it's going to cool it down. Now, okay, I think I'm ready to go. So you're going to put your butter in a bit at a time, oops, and swirl it around. Oops. I have all my butter in. I've taken it off the heat. It's still kind of cooking away on its own. It's still bubbly. It's not on the heat. The colour looks pretty perfect. It's on the dark side, but I love it like that. Now let's have a look at this. So at this stage now, we are ready to put it into the dish that you're going to bake it in. Okay, so here we go. We've got our delicious butterscotchy, fudgy toffee sauce, and I'm pouring it into the pan that we offered the apples up into earlier on. So that goes on the bottom. Comme ça. Don't burn yourself, guys. This is really hot. It's very tempting to stick your finger in it and taste it because it is delicious, but don't. And you're going to put your apples back into the place that they were in before. 1, 2. When you're doing this, try not to stick your fingers in the toffee or you'll burn yourself. 3, 4, 5. These are on the soft side, probably of what they should be, but I think you're better to overcook them than undercook them. Because if the pastry cooks and the apples aren't cooked, you'll have to take it out of the oven because you don't want to burn the pastry and you don't want your apples to be hard. That would be my advice. So even though the recipe says 5 minutes, you could give it 10, so long as it's on a low heat. So those are all my apples in, and there's just a bit of buttery juice left there. I'm going to just throw that in on top. Scrum, it's tasting good already. Okay, so here I have my pastry ready to go. As I said, I would strongly recommend actually buying one of those blocks of puff pastry. But this is the flaky pastry recipe which I was recommending for the easier apple tart, and because I'd never made it before, I said I'd make it just to try it, so I'm going to use that. But actually, the pastry is the very least important part of this recipe. So you're going to be rolling it out, and you want it to be kind of about 1 centimetre all around bigger than your pan. And quite thick. What's that? 0.5 centimetre thick. Thereabouts. Now that's the same size as my pan, so I'm going to use that as a guide, and I'm going to cut it with my buttery knife. Use that for something else. Maybe it is actually a little bit thick. Okay. And then what you do is you just, actually the recipe has star anise in it. I think that would kill it personally. I'm not going to put star anise in it, but the guy who wrote the recipe obviously knows that it will work, but it's not for me, so I'm not putting it in. So, plonk it on top, tuck it in around. It doesn't matter if you get a bit delayed doing this part, because once your apples are sitting in the toffee does not continue to cook, and it's just kind of sitting there. So, there you go. If you were organised, you'd have the right little knife to prick this with, but here's something within reach. So I'm just going to do that comme ça. And my oven is hot enough at 160 fan or 180 regular oven. So I'm just going to put it in now. And the recipe says 50 minutes. I'm going to look at it after about 35 because I think 50 sounds like quite a lot, but we'll see. Okay. All right, and now I might be very organised because I didn't go and do my washing. Okay, so I originally set the clock for 35 minutes, thinking that, whoops, 50 would be too long. That's really not ready. It probably needs the 50. I should have trusted the recipe. Okay, so I'm back to you again. This took 50 minutes and it looks just around perfect. It is golden brown and delicious, and I've stuck a little knife in there to test the apples and they are nice and soft. So this is the tricky bit. Okay, so what you want is you want a plate which is bigger than your pan and ideally with a little lip on it. Okay. What you're going to do is you're basically going to flip it, but you need to be quick and decisive or it'll dribble and you'll get burnt. You don't want to leave it until it's cool or it will stick in the pan. So you need to act while it's pretty hot. This is only out like 2 minutes. You could leave it a bit longer, but I'm going to be brave. Okay, so you invert your plate on top of your pan. Comme ça. Get a cloth or even two. You need to kind of get the angle of the dangle right. Pick the whole lot up together. Oh God, if I make a mess of this live, I swear to God, I'll be so sad. Okay, maybe two cloths. One for underneath and one for on top. Okay. And you just flip it over and be brave and be quick. Comme ça. Okay. Now, what we're hoping for, it'll be beautifully golden. The apples will be laid out lovely. And ideally, there won't be loads of toffee stuck in the pan. But if there is, I have a little trick for you. Okay, I haven't used this particular recipe before, so it's kind of winging it. But so you lift it up. There's your thing. Oh my God, it does look delicious. And actually, there's no toffee left in the pan, which is brilliant. That's actually much better than the recipe I've used before. So there you go. Ta-da! Tarte Tatin. Enjoy. Eat it hot, eat it cold, eat it with ice cream, eat it with cream, whatever. That, I promise you, is the most delicious apple tart you will ever eat. So, happy days. Don't burn yourself, don't drop it on the floor, and if you do drop it on the floor, scrape it back up, eat it, because it'll be worth it. Over and out.